what's it costing you to watch the Crash Bros? Who should you not watch? What negative energy do you not want in your feed? Because the more you watch, the more YouTube thinks you enjoy that, or the more your podcast platform thinks you enjoy that, and the more they send you. So today, I want to talk about who do we watch? Who do we listen to? Right? You're a CEO running a business, a lot of staff. You need motivation, you need direction, you need whatever you're listening for. I'm retired. I listen for financial freedom, for investing in real estate, for what to do in retirement. So we might have similar lists, and we might have some things that don't overlap at all. So I'm actually kind of curious because I guarantee there's no hot yoga lists on mine on my list. Okay. So there are some good defensive tactics channels out there, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. So we'll go through a list of a few. This is a live stream. So hello, everybody in the chat. We will take questions. Dana, you have a platform that I'm using for some of my rentals that had, at last count, like 25,000 units on it, 24,000, and over 3,000 landlords, owners, small businesses using your platform to run their rentals. So I like having you come on, and I really appreciate you taking the time because you have information I just don't have access to.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and really looking forward to this because I think as a landlord, you're an entrepreneur. And I think it's never been easier to get access to resources out there to learn. And so I'm really looking forward to this episode with you.
So we'll start with the first one. When you open the app, whose channel do you check? Like maybe top two channels. Do you check first to see if they have new content out?
Okay, so as far as the ones I check the most frequently, the first one's going to be a little bit of a cop out because it's so frequent and daily, and we both watch him. But I'll get to the other ones afterwards. So the first one that I have is, and I'm curious to see how your list overlaps with mine. The first one is one rental at a time, but it's actually for the daily news. So I go to that for my daily news just to understand and get a quick brief on the market. And I think for anyone, it's important to do that. Your news source may be different based on what you're interested in. For me, it's real estate. And so one rental at a time is definitely that one for the daily news. So it's the first one. The other one that I've done more frequently on my list of my 10 favorites is the AI daily brief. And the reason I like the AI daily brief is it's fast, but it puts all this AI talk and lingo into layman terms and tells you how you yourself can use AI and what are the new cool things coming out. So like one that I just learned about the other day from them was you could take any script, like any book or any article, and toss it into Google's new notebook thing. And you can literally, and it's so cool because I tried it, you can create a script of two people talking just like this and asking questions. And so they'll synthesize everything that the article or the book says and then puts it into a format of a conversation, as in you, Dion, and me talking. So maybe even us right now live streaming is not a live stream. Maybe this is AI. But I thought that was really cool. And so I like to stay, even when I'm not super comfortable talking about something, I would say I know probably more about AI than the average human running a tech company. But at the same time, it's always good to have to constantly be at the forefront of it. So those are the two that I check daily.
So I'm going to write down ones that I haven't heard of. So I haven't heard of the AI daily update. I do watch Zuber. The thing with AI and podcasts, YouTube videos, knowing which one is a human and which one isn't is getting more challenging. So if it's one of those
Yeah.
faceless ones, I pretty much just assume, like if it's a whiteboard and the little doodle hand or whatever, I just assume it's AI.
Yeah.
Now it can be AI scripted, AI voiced, AI doodled. So there's really not even a human involved in what's being said. So I would have to worry about data in, the quality of the data that's going in versus the quality that's coming out, right? Because bad data in, bad data out. Without that
Yep.
human interpretation, there's the theory for AI, that's the closed box theory. So if you put in characters, so Chinese characters or something that's not in your own language that you know, AI can cipher through all of those and match them with other ones and spit out, like in English, it would be this paragraph paraphrased to something AI would say. So it can take these characters and put them together and have it come out to where it would make sense to the reader. But does the AI understand the data that came in and went out? Or can it just pair up things? There's no interpretation in there. So it's one thing I like to understand with AI too. So I'll probably have to check that out. I do watch Zuber, and then with Zuber, I have a filter.
Okay.
And so I think most of us and a lot of people in the comments watch Zuber, have been to the One Rental at a Time event, probably saw you there last year, going to see you speak this year in February 15th and 16th in Vegas. But he puts out, 5+ videos a day, 5 days a week. And while I watch the daily update, and I'm just like everybody else, Friday morning and Saturday morning, and I wake up and I go, oh, there's no Zuber update today. That sucks. What do I got to watch at 7:30 today? But then I'll go through and I'll watch anything with Lumberjack Landlord, Millennial Mike, you, Beth Traverso, right? There's a few of his guests that come on that I like. I watch the Friday update with Ty, right? Because he comes on and does it every week too. But there's a stock guy. I'm not into stocks. There's a big apartment complex syndication guy. I don't watch that. So I'll filter through because there's so much content. I watch the daily update, and then there's a few of the guests that I watch everything that comes out with them. So
Well, thank you for not filtering me out.
I have to watch what you say on there. Like I said, you have to. I don't. How do I put this? I don't have Zuber's interview skills to ask the questions to get you to say the things I would want to hear. So when I watch you on Zuber, I learn things I wouldn't have known to ask. So if that makes any sense to people. So we have that kind of in the top two, the Zuber One Rental at a Time community. And then I put a note here, which ones? So on Zuber's, you watch the daily update. Are there any of his guests that you make sure to watch?
Yes. So I do watch actually most of them, but not as frequently. So what I do is it's usually every Tuesday because that's where my commute is slightly longer. And so I can be on my AirPods and I will just go through them. And how I do it is actually based on the number of views they have. So the ones with the more views means it was probably something that was shared more frequently. And so I use that. And so then I get like literally all of the guests, but at certain moments of like what is hot. What's actually really interesting that I've learned about that is I kind of need to change that process. And here is why. Sometimes the ones that get the most views are based on the title and more of the clickbaity stuff that you say versus some of the content. And so I've had to kind of change that over time. But yeah, for a lot of that stuff. And what's great about Zuber is the videos are not that long. And so you can get through a lot of them really quickly on that morning commute that I have.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I took a note here for view count too to kind of look at that. I've been on Zuber's channel every week for 3 or 4 years now. We had one, most of our videos get 5 to 10,000 views.
Yeah.
We had one that got like 30,000 in the first week. And I was like, oh, what was that? Title.
Yeah.
We were talking about the real estate crash and clarifying that there is one, but
I remember that one.
transactions, not prices, right? And because we were agreeing that there was a crash, everybody's like, I'm going to watch it. And then all the people who watch the crash posts were like, well, you said there isn't going to be one. But so it's not really clickbait because there was a crash in transactions and we proved the data. So then I've got some big, huge channels that I watch and some not so big channels that I watch.
Okay.
What do you think?
I want to see if we have some overlap with anything.
Okay, so with the overlap, we might go with the bigger channels.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the smaller ones I watch, they're like the size of my channel, so they don't have as much viewership. So probably the biggest one, the biggest two that I watch would be Minority Mindset.
Okay. Nope. Don't watch that. I'm writing it down.
So
and why?
Jaspreet Singh is from Punjab, a state in India, right? Or whatever they call that region in India. And he's came here with another family where they basically said, you have two choices. You can be a doctor or a failure. Right. And that was his thing. And he started at school. He's an entrepreneurial mindset. And then he invested in real estate to fund his thing. And he became successful not doing what his family wanted. So it's basically somebody who started from nothing without a lot of parental support.
Love it.
I identify with that. And then he's just such a good presenter. He's like I don't know. He missed his calling as not being a teacher. He should have been some type of teacher, I think. So he teaches on YouTube, and it's short 10, 15-minute videos that cover a concept on finances. And it could, I mean, there's a whole 1,000 topics that he could cover in that. And then he'll do longer interviews. And really what got me addicted, and he doesn't do these anymore, was he was one of the first ones 5, 6 years ago that did person on the street interviews,
Mm.
asking people about inflation, asking people about, just common, what we would say, this is common sense. Everybody knows this. And then we're like,
Yeah.
oh, when you ask people that aren't dealing with real estate and finances and investing all the time, this isn't common. So yeah, Minority Mindset's probably one of my favorite bigger channels.
Great. And you said there were two of them that you had. I love
Yeah, the
that
other
one. I'm going
one,
to check it out.
yeah, the other one is I don't watch Rich Dad Poor Dad because Robert
Okay.
Kiyosaki has lost his ever-loving mind. Right, he's gone off the deep end. It's the end of the world every day, and it's gold and silver, and it's nothing that makes sense. But in the Rich Dad community, like there's the one rental at a time community, you've got all the guests.
Yeah.
In the Rich Dad Poor Dad community, you have Ken McElroy and his wife Danielle. So Ken, decades of experience, super success, way more work involved in his business than I ever want to do, right? So I can learn some things from him. But his wife, Danielle, has like 3 paid off rentals and is looking at the real estate landscape through the lens of I have this many tenants, they provide income for me to live my life. And the two of them, when they do their interviews together, it's like 45-minute once a week kind of thing. I try
Yeah.
not to ever miss one of those because I'm like notes, right? I got my little notes and I'm listening while I'm doing whatever, and I'll write down things they talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I couldn't agree more that sometimes with the brand name stuff, there's other things out there definitely for you to watch that others haven't heard of. So Minority Mindset is going to be one that I'll look at. Okay, my next one, especially for those entrepreneurs listening, is How I Built This with Guy Raz. That is one of my favorites. And that's podcast format. But what I love about that is the people that Guy Raz brings on the show. So for example, with Patagonia, bringing Yvonne on, who is the CEO and founder, right, of Patagonia. It's such a freaking crazy story when you hear about some of these businesses. Like he went out and pitched all these investors that, I'm going to build this clothing brand and we're going to make it really quality clothes. And so if people want to return them a year or two later because they have a rip or whatever, we'll go and we'll patch it back up and send it back to them. And what I thought was really cool about it is like all these investors were like, that's the stupidest idea I have ever heard. You want the clothes to rip and break just like they do in, the H&Ms and Forever 21s, because you want people to come back and buy new clothes from you. And so if you're giving clothes away and then telling people they can return them at any time to get patched up for free, you're just going to lose a ton of money, right? And I think what they missed, and as he goes through his story, is his passion and his almost the like cult-like culture he built around Patagonia, which made it to be this incredibly successful company over time. And so I love those stories. Another one they had was obviously like Airbnb. And thinking of that, there's like that chicken and egg problem of like, how do you get the people to stay there? How do you get enough supply on the market? And going through and talking about, how they're selling cereal boxes at political campaigns because all the hotels were booked out. And so like that was the one place where they could be like, hey, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Great. Can another Republican stay with you? Another Democrat, just to like get it going. And so I love that because it tells, I mean, this from building businesses and building your real estate business. It's a lot of hard work. You've got to be in the details. And at the beginning, it doesn't actually always go to plan. And so I love Guy Raz. I think he does a great job interviewing the people he brings on the show. So it's one that I love.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. One of the things that got me watching BiggerPockets in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
the BiggerPockets real estate podcast, was the guests.
Yeah.
I knew the host stories, And actually, I know what happened to BiggerPockets and why so many people stopped watching their original show. And it wasn't ever the guests. The guests kind of stayed the same. They would bring in new guests. And I think their mom and pop investors videos were better than the when they had the Robert Kiyosaki's on or the
Hmm. It's
um,
more relatable.
yeah, they're more it's like I can probably do what that person did with a laundromat, but I'm not going to be the next Matthew McConaughey. I'm like, I'm not, it's not going to pull that off, right? And then he was on their podcast. So yeah, I think the guests on those kind of things I'll have to check out. That was How I Built This
How I Built This by Guy Raz.
by Guy
Yeah.
Raz. There you go. Uh, okay, some of the smaller channels.
The smaller channels. You want me to give my smaller
Uh,
channels?
sure, if you want, we
Okay.
can go with like
Yeah.
who do you think is the one that you listen to that you know I don't listen to?
Okay. This is one that's actually okay. This one is a small one. I don't think you listen to Marketing School. Do you listen to Marketing School?
No.
Okay. This is Neil Patel. I love Neil Patel. It's very niche. I think anyone who's an entrepreneur needs to know how to do marketing. And it's actually even a shorter format than your videos or Zuber's videos. They are literally 5 minute long videos about, and he does it daily. And what's cool about it is it tells you all these hacks that you had no idea about marketing of like just these little things to do. And you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think about that? I'm going to go back and do that. And so it almost gives you like this task list of what to do. Like one example would be like on a newsletter. Let's just say you send out a newsletter on for your business, right? Um, you shouldn't have like a call to action button that says like subscribe to newsletter. It's like people are like, I get too many newsletters, right? You want to have the call to action be something of value, like, get free content. And then it's like, join 80,000 other landlords and find out what they're learning through this. Like you have a big call to action, then that, and you're like, oh my gosh, that makes complete sense. Why didn't I think about that? And then you're like, go change that button. It shouldn't say like join newsletter. It should say something more of value. And so I love the Marketing School. I think it's a great way as you're building a brand, as you're building a community to just learn these small hacks.
I love that. I love the idea of short snippets of information that can change the way you're actually doing something. So there's an actionable
Mm-hmm.
takeaway from it. Uh,
What about yours that you don't think I've heard of?
so on that thought, so I'm writing a book
Yeah.
to be produced with the one rental at a time community. So I have to actually not be lazy one day and actually write this book. And I don't think
Mhm.
too many people are going to read it because it's going to be that. It's going to be each chapter is it's not here's my story of all my tenants I've ever had. It's here's the step-by-step process of how to screen tenants. These are the things I check. These are the things that matter. This is why I'm checking those things. So it's like a instruction manual by paragraph or by chapter. So you'd have the screening tenants one, choosing a market one, like all these little breakdowns. So it's not the storybook that everybody wants. So those videos, I like it when they go, hey, here's something about what you're doing, a small tweak that can make you better at it. So I'm definitely going to check out the Marketing School one. So this one, I don't think you listen to because you're at a different stage in life.
Okay.
I listened to a guy named Joe Kuhn, Kuhn, and I don't think you need to listen to him, maybe,
Okay.
until you
I'm not going to
decide
write
to.
them down.
So his original channel was he works at facility maintenance, big plants, right? And he's like, here's
Okay.
some Lean Six Sigma and other things to make your processes better, process and plant improvement. And then he retired and he made a couple of videos on retiring and they took off. And he dawned on him, he's like, oh, I have a retirement channel. I don't have a how to make your business better channel because they would get 1,000 views and then he'd make a retirement one and get 60,000 views. So he retired at 54 and he's like a normal guy. He's not, he wasn't anything, he hadn't done anything with his career that was like super amazing. He
Okay.
had a family, he had kids and everything, and he saved over years and he invested. And then it was this transition from going working guy where he's identified as I make plants run better. Like I'm so good at this, I'm going to make a channel on that. That's what he probably thought of himself. And that was me in my role, right? I was the transportation, higher education CDL guy for the West Coast. Like everyone in that realm, I'm the one they had to deal with probably. They didn't feel as lucky. But when you retire, I took away so many things on, what happens to your identity. What's going to happen to the people that you work with that you think are your friends or family? You call them your work friends or family. And so that
Yeah.
was watching somebody, he documented, like, he's 60 now. So it's like 6 years of YouTube stuff of, hey, here's what's like after I retired. And these are the changes I went through. Here's the things I didn't think of. And so if you're just starting real estate investing and you're thinking, okay, eventually I'm going to have financial freedom, I don't know that I would jump on his channel. But if you're a little bit
Mhm.
into it, you want to make some tweaks that are going to make retirement better.
Yeah.
That I'm like addicted to Joe Kuhn. I've never met him, and then I've met some comments in all of his videos. He's mentioned me once or twice because I talk about him all the time. Probably confuses him because he's a stock guy. He doesn't own any rental.
Okay.
He's not a real
Okay.
estate guy. And I'll say, look, here's a concept for retirement. But if you invest in stocks, I don't know what I'm talking about. So go to Joe Kuhn's channel. I'm like his cheerleader to say
Yeah.
he gets that. I don't. So probably one you haven't heard of. Uh, I have some channels that I listen to for entertainment that are also still financial.
Okay.
Do you have
Okay.
anything like that?
Entertainment ones. These aren't, I don't know how much they're entertainment. I want to hear what yours are before I give mine
Okay.
next, because I've got, I think, seven more here. So let me know what your entertainment ones are. And then I'm curious if we have some overlap.
Patrick Bet David.
Nope.
No, okay. It's probably got a name of his channel. It's the PBD podcast or something like that. Patrick Bet David. Now he does
Okay.
talk stocks and he'll compare some real estate stuff, but he's got a kind of panel of different people on there. Uh, I don't take away like, oh, I'm going to change my investing or add that to my portfolio idea from that podcast. I'm mostly watching it for the energy. Like I used to watch Kris Krohn, Grant Cardone. I don't invest the way those guys do. These are older channels, but their
Yep.
energy is really cool. So I watch his channel for the energy, for the motivation, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Mine are much more, I think, business related, a little bit to some extent of like building businesses. My next one is Planet Money by NPR. Do you ever watch that?
Planet
So it's
Money.
yeah. So what they do is they always, and it's so crazy because it's all these entrepreneurs of like bootstrapped businesses. It's not tech venture backed. And like they'll put these crazy ones on. One applicable now that we're getting to holiday season is the Santa suit episode. And it talks about why Santa suits are so expensive. And you hear about this family you have never heard of who made the best Santa suits out there ever, and they did it based on saying they had the best quality. So, when you go into a mall, that all the Santas would have it. It looked so real, like a Santa Claus. But then they started talking about how they got really into making sure they had the right patents and stuff like that and tariffs in place. So then when China started trying to import them, they were like, no, 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 you can't. There's too much of a high tax on it, like a tariff on it. And they were so smart about going through with that to really keep this like small mom and pop business that actually became quite big. And so it's kind of cool to just hear these stories about normal people building these things that you're like, oh, I never actually once gave any thought to people who make Santa suits. And now it's actually kind of interesting. So that's the one I like. It's called Planet Money.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. That one sounds good. Kind of in that line, there's a one I listen to called Alux, Alux.
Alux. Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
So eventually this might turn into one of those AI ones, but it's been going on for so long that they did it before AI was a thing. And it's a narrator basically
Okay.
going over lists like 15 money mistakes, 15 things different between rich and poor, 15 things that make you middle class, 15 like, so
Yeah.
it's always 10 to 15 minutes. They always give like 10 to 15 things in their list. And it's not so much that I like listen to the list and I go, oh, that's 15 things I never thought about. As I listen to it and then I'll go, oh, that one thing, that number 6 in that list, I've never even thought of that. Let me go to the Google rabbit hole and spend 3 hours on this subject, and then I'll have this whole new way of thinking from just one of their things off of their list. So Alux is definitely one like that. It's bigger too. It's probably got millions of subscribers, so
Okay.
it's a little more known out there. I see we have a super chat from Chester saying they 1000% agree with you about marketing. If nobody knows what you have a business, then you don't have a business, only expenses and losses. There you go.
Yep. Great. What is one that you have, Dion, that you think I will also have on my list?
Clear value tax.
No.
No, okay. So clear value tax is it's just a guy in a shirt in front of a whiteboard, and
Okay.
he's I think a CPA, right? And he just does,
You would hope he's a CPA if he's
I
talking about
think so,
taxes.
right? Yeah, I've not paid attention to that. Actually, I watched the videos, and it's like he will break down what the Fed is doing, the impact, and in
Okay.
like layman terms, but it's a quick talker. It's a shorter videos, clear value tax. I would have thought that was one that you had. Uh,
I-
okay, I think I have one that you
Okay.
might
I want,
listen to.
okay.
Coach Carson.
Yes, I do listen to Coach
Okay,
Carson. Coach Carson
fine.
wasn't on my list, but I do listen to Coach Carson. Not one of my top 10, but definitely do.
Okay, yeah, I'd say he's in the top 10 selectively. Like I'll watch about 50% of his videos. I'll watch, and I think the title and thumbnail on some of them are like, oh, I have no care about that subject whatsoever. And then the other ones, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get the notepad out and I'm gonna spend the next 20 minutes watching Coach Carson and take notes. Uh, yeah, his
Love it.
philosophy on real estate, I think closest aligns with mine of almost any other content creator I've encountered.
I
You,
agree with that. I agree with that. And it's actually something that's very tangible to every single human out there that you can get there, right? Which is really cool about it. I think it just relates to mass market.
there's okay. Are there channels you would like to be on that you listen to?
Yeah, there are. So from that perspective, okay, I've got a couple. One is Masters of Scale. And it talks about scaling businesses. Um, and so that's Reid Hoffman's. And for those listening who don't know who Reid Hoffman is, Reid Hoffman started LinkedIn. And so he basically talks about with Masters of Scale, how do you scale something and make it nationwide that has this like, something you can deliver on to a large audience. What I like about it is that he brings on people where you would never think how challenging it is to scale something until you listen to these folks. One of them is, and have you ever used 23andMe? The where you then get your whole family tree.
No, mine's all orangutan. I don't know if they have that in the database. No, I
So
haven't used it.
what's crazy about it is so I've used 23andMe. I've had a lot of friends who've used it. I've actually had multiple friends find siblings they didn't know they had because of 23andMe, where they're like, wait, I'm related to this person somehow. Let me connect with them on Facebook or social. Let me search for them on there and then say, hey, somehow we're related. And they find out they have the same parent, but like their parents didn't tell them type thing. Like very creepy stuff like that. And I actually quite like that because I'm like huge on transparency. I'm huge on like, hey, there shouldn't be those types of hidden secrets out there. But it was really interesting because in building 23andMe, you would think there it's a good cause. Like you actually go out and you get to learn a lot about yourself and not only your lineage and stuff, but also just anything medically that you would need to know that your doctor should know about you. And they got so much resistance in building this company that was to take what would be lab work that you would have to pay tons of money for and or like to be able to see what your family tree looks like, impossible to do. They take it and they just give it to the average consumer. And so it's really cool when you listen to those about how challenging some of these stories are because you think of someone like Rita Hoffman who, started it, where you're like, oh, it's probably so easy to build LinkedIn. And then you hear all the stories, you're like, actually, it was not as easy as you think. They go through the same struggles that everyone goes through every day. So that one's called Masters of Scale.
Nice. And I think that sounds like there's a lot of takeaways no matter the size of your business,
Exactly.
right? Because
Yes,
scaling to
yes,
the
yes, yes.
next size is just as difficult no matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other one that's very similar to that one is called Crucible Moments. It's by Sequoia. Capital. So one of the big VCs. And what's crazy about that one is like they have so many guests on that one, but some examples are like with Airbnb, like you don't realize how bad of shape they were in when COVID hit and what they needed to do. Or the other one they had on there was well, a couple, but like HubSpot, if anyone uses that CRM system, it's like, you know, basically like a Salesforce but for mass market and smaller businesses. You know, every time HubSpot would go into a meeting, they're like, what's your strategy to go towards big large enterprises? And they're like, to their board, they're like, we don't have one. We're for the small people. We're for anyone who wants a CRM to manage their customers and also their marketing operations. Like, we're for everyone out there. We want to make it affordable. And their board would always say, oh, just get the big deals, go after what Salesforce does. And they said, no, we don't want to. We're for everyone. And so it's cool to kind of hear these moments and stuff and how they make those decisions. So that's another very similar one.
And those are ones you would like to be on.
And those would be ones that I would want to be on. Yeah.
So I can kind of cheat. And I think both of us can do this. We probably interacted with Zuber or watched Zuber, and then we're like, hey, how do I get on there? We interact with them enough to get on there and then be recurring people. So we're on the one rental at a
Oh,
time.
I had to reach out to him 5 bazillion times and I got about 5,000 no's before I got a yes.
Do you
But
know
for
how I
those
got on there?
listening, it only takes one yes.
It only
How
takes
did you
one
get
yes.
on there?
I got invited on BiggerPockets when it was the biggest, you know, it's still big. It's still watched a lot,
Yeah.
kind of in the real estate thing. And because of my binder strategy, right? And I get my tenants to ask me to raise the rent. So BiggerPockets said, hey, come on and share that. And I said, sure. I made sure that when I was on their podcast that I
Okay.
mentioned Zuber one rental at a time. I did this.
Oh.
Don't tell Zuber he doesn't watch my content. I did this psychological thing. You mess up his name, you let someone else correct you. So his name was actually in the video several times where they were correcting me on his name. I talked about his book at the end, and then it was like I got enough people to send him, "Hey, this guy talked about you on BiggerPockets," and then he reached out to me. He said, "Hey, you want to come on here and share your story?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "Absolutely!" And here we are. So never tell him that because I know he doesn't. If you watch my videos, he'd never make it this far into one. Uh, so I kind of want to be on Joe Kuhn's channel for something very similar. Zuber's content got me better at investing in real estate, better at running my real estate portfolio, better at understanding. Like there was a time where I wasn't going to buy. I was going to take some time off. In 2020, there was so much going on. I had just purchased a fourplex and I was just going to
Mhm.
sit on my heels. And Zuber goes, everybody watching what's happening with interest rates? Have you ran the numbers on your deals again? Because they're like 3%. 6 months ago, they were 6%. And I ran the numbers, emptied out my retirement account, and bought a triplex because of Zuber. So I was able to retire, to walk away from a career I identified myself with the confidence because I watched Joe Kuhn. So I would like to be on his channel just to kind of share.
Yeah.
There's stuff out there. It's impacting people. Here's what I was able to do with it. The other two, and I'll be real quick with these two. There's one called Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. It's a
Real estate
smaller channel.
investing.
It's like the size of my
Okay.
channel. It's real estate investing and landlord news. Tony is a cop. He's got some rentals and he
Okay.
pulls up an article. He'll say, hey, here's this article on rent control in Philly or whatever. And then he'll go 10 minutes or 15 minutes on news that is specifically related to people who are small landlords. Uh, Never interacted with him. Don't know him. I don't think he watches my content. Probably doesn't know I exist, but I watch his stuff. Would love to be on there and go, hey, let's talk real estate and landlord news. The other one is a really small channel, might even be bigger than mine. And it's just this really normal couple that talk real estate in Las Vegas, which is not where I invest. And the name of their channel, I want to make sure I get it right. Talk about houses with Todd and Oana. And
Okay.
they're agents or whatever, and they have rentals. And they are kind of like if I see my feed goes, all these Crash Bro things pop up, Facebook, wherever, Instagram, doesn't matter what I'm
Yeah.
looking. I'll go to their channel because they're the anti-Crash Bros. They will go, everybody said housing prices have crashed in Las Vegas. Let's pull up the chart. They've got all the Vegas data, which is kind of like the canary in the coal mine. It's a more volatile area, so what's happening there kind of spreads to everywhere else. So I watch them a lot. I would love to just be on their channel and share what it's like to be a small landlord and interact with
Yeah.
other normal people that are doing this.
We'll get you on their show.
It would be great. Yeah. So those are good channels I like to do. And they're, I don't know that they're gonna be big, huge. I don't think my channel will ever be a big, huge channel either, but I think the people that interact with them the most are actually going to be really impacted. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, sometimes I find the larger ones don't have as much of the engagement or the passion where you really have a niche, right? So I think there's a trade-off there.
yeah. Anyone in cover before we're done that you think we might have missed? Because there's other ones I watch too, right? There's other channels, but these are the ones I wanted to make sure. I
Yeah,
actually
I
kind
love
of
it.
looked through my feed and I said, which ones am I actually watching the most? And I was like, hey,
Yeah.
here's my list.
I always think about a really good thing for you to do is to watch things that you normally don't do in your day to day. So what we just spoke about is real estate, right? Like markets, how it's impacting real estate, and then like building businesses. Like those are the things we do. The other ones I have on my list are ones that have nothing to do with what you and I do and kind of put me into this like, oh, great, I'm learning about a lot of other things that I never, that is not part of my day to day. And to some extent, I don't think it impacts it as much. One is health, obviously. So the Huberman Lab with Andrew Huberman. And that's the one where he talks about the effects of alcohol and cannabis on your body. He talks about how to perfect your sleep. He talks about anxiety. He like anything there and that you can he can go through in like such a eloquent way medically. I love Huberman. So that's one. And then the other ones, which I think are like two really good ones that I get like two different viewpoints on, is Making Sense with Sam Harris. He talks about such tough topics and does it so well. Like he did the BLM and COVID and all of that. And then on the other side is Joe Rogan as well, who just kind of, relates to people, gets them in a room and talks to them. And the two of them, I think, do a really good job about it. And both of them are different politically, but they both do such an eloquent job that it's like good to watch both of them. So those are them. And then the other one I'll leave you with is All In. All In by there's a bunch of them on it, but it's David Sachs. And it is so he gets such good people on there where you look at it and you're just like, this is pretty incredible. So examples are like with the Elon Musk one that he had. I'm talking about the Starship Super Heavy rocket booster that, do you, I should ask you this, Dion, do you know why that was like such a monumental moment when they were able to land that rocket into the booster there?
Well, for me, just the physics of it. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
So
Like, yeah.
here's the crazy thing. They themselves, and most people don't know this about us, SpaceX, they're actually a profitable company, which is freaking crazy because they themselves have only raised $10 billion. And if you think about that, if you compare that against NASA spends $22 billion a year. NASA's been trying to build that exact same thing. It's spent like 2.5 years trying to build it, hasn't been able to do it. Elon Musk and SpaceX did it. But what's cool about it is to get to Mars, for all of us to get to Mars, it's too expensive. Like it's just way too expensive for us to do that. And what I love about this one is it talks about like we always think of our world and what we're doing here. And it literally says now that we can land this rocket back and make it reusable, we can now go to Mars because it's affordable. Because to get all of us humans to Mars, you actually have to build up there. So you need to get construction and a ton of materials up there. But if you can do it now where you can take the same rocket, it becomes so much more affordable. And then you could take, I mean, they were talking about it, bringing AI robots on to build everything for you in Mars. And you just hear about these cool things and you're like, I'm in a totally different world right now. So I think All In is a really cool one to listen to as
Nice.
well.
And there's a couple people in the comments saying All In is top notch. So
Yeah,
really
cool. So
great.
other people listen to it.
And
Awesome.
I'll have to check out. So my last one, not related to real estate, not related to personal finance, not related to anything, but just makes my life easier. Right. I definitely am not going to listen to the one about health that talks about what alcohol does to you. I do not need confirmation bias impacting me there. Uh, I would like to watch movies, right?
Okay.
But being retired, I paddleboard, scuba dive, travel. There is a day where I go, okay, tomorrow I want to do nothing. Tomorrow's gonna be a nothing day. And by 10 in the morning, I've fixed a fence, made a dump run, paddleboarded for 2 hours. Like there's just not enough time to sit down and go, okay, I'm gonna watch a movie. I'm gonna actually the 2 hours of it's gonna be great. I'm gonna be entertained. I love these actors. I love the story. So I watch this channel called Screen Rant.
Okay.
And the idea is it's this guy Ryan. I don't know his other name. I should probably know because I watch it probably two of these videos a day, and they're like 3 minutes to 5 minutes long. So it's not a big time commitment. But he plays an executive. So he's sitting in like an executive office, and he plays the person with the script pitching the movie. So you get 3 to 5 minutes of the person pitching the movie saying, let me go through the whole storyline, the whole plot line. Then the executive points out the plot holes, points
Mhm.
out just the interaction of him talking to himself, right? It's
Yeah.
video for that. Uh, but I can go watch a 5 minute video and walk away from that 5 minute video feeling like I experienced the entire movie, which my time doesn't have the time to watch a whole movie to spend an hour and a half sitting staring at a screen. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's gonna be a video game, but it's not a movie. So Screen Rant absolutely has nothing to do with real estate, nothing to do with investing. But if there's a movie out that you kind of like, if there's a movie that comes out and my friends or somebody wants to watch it, I'll go watch a movie with people. Or I watch horror films with my daughter. So we have daddy-daughter time where that we watch a horror film with that
Yeah.
was the outcome of being raised by a single dad. They like horror films. Uh, but there's a lot of movies I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but I wouldn't commit the time to it. I'll go
Yeah.
check it out on Screen Rant, save the time.
I love it. That's the very similar reason why I watch all movies on 1.5 speed.
Yep. Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. This was a different topic. There's a lot of great comments in here. I'll probably go through all of them. I don't catch some of them during the lives. Uh, I look forward to having you back in, a few weeks or a month or so, and we'll do
Look
something
at
like this again.
Looking forward to it. This is great. And by then I'll have all your podcasts and YouTube, so I'll be watching them.
Nice. I'm definitely checking out quite a few of these that you mentioned that I had just, that's why I wanted to see here. We have non-overlap that I'll be able to check out.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And if you have any questions for Dana, you can find her at Dana, Dana, at hemlane.com. And we're off of YouTube. Cool.
Great. What crazy comments did we get? Did we